Whitney Houston is as big a superstar as the music business has ever known. She exploded on the scene in 1985 and spent the next 2 decades dominating the charts and capturing the hearts of fans around the world. One person was there by her side through it all. Her former lover and best friend, Robin Crawford. Robin first met Whitney in the summer of 1980 when she got a request from her former high school basketball coach to pass out camp counselor enrollment forms at the East Orange Community Development Center in New Jersey. While doing her job, Robin said, "Then I came across a girl I'd never seen before. I didn't notice her at first because she was sitting in the back against the wall, but I paused as I handed her the paperwork. She simply stopped me in my tracks. Her sandy brown hair was pulled back. Her skin was peachy brown, and her eyes caught the misty light. When Robin asked her name, she replied in full, Whitney Elizabeth Houston. After talking and finding out where she lived and went to school, Robin was intrigued to get to know her even more. Before I moved on, I gave her one last look and told her I'd keep an eye out for her. I don't know why I felt the need to say that, but I did. Robin became a summer counselor working the morning session. Whitney was scheduled in the slot after her. I'd just turned 19 and Whitney was about to turn 17. I had no idea where things with her were going to go, but I did know that the summer of 1980 was shaping up to be some kind of wonderful. Robin and Whitney started spending time outside of work together, becoming new friends. Upon meeting Whitney for the first time, Robin's very perceptive mother, Janet, remarked, "You look like an angel, but I know you're not." Robin was quickly finding this out, too. Within a few days of meeting at the summer job, Whitney and I went out to lunch. We walked out the door and got about 40 feet before she pulled out a cigarette from her breast pocket. I suppose I wore my surprise on my face. "Yeah, I smoke," she said, then pulled out a joint too. Now I was shocked. She did not look like someone who got high. "Oh, you something else, huh?" I said. Whitney laughed and put the joint back in its place. "You can call me Nippy," Whitney said. She explained that her father had given her the nickname, which came from a mischievous character in a comic book, and the nickname was accurate. Robin was single at the time, but having problems with a girl on her basketball team who was possessive and controlling, even borderline violent. I told Whitney about the situation, and she said, "Don't worry, I'll get you out of that." I didn't ask her what she meant. We left a lot unspoken about things like that. But she did it. There was never any confrontation, and the girl simply faded away as Whitney and I grew closer. Other people could look at us and tell we were tight, but something more was growing between us. We became inseparable. A few weeks after we met, Nippy invited me over. We talked and talked, and then all of a sudden we were face to face. That first kiss was long and warm like honey. As we eased out of it, our eyes locked, my nerves shut up, and my heart beat furiously. What's going to happen next? And then she said, "If I knew when my brothers were coming home, I'd show you something." It was totally badass. Nip could get you into all kinds of trouble if she had the opportunity. Their romantic attraction for one another continued to grow. I wouldn't push her to do anything. I wanted her friendship. That was what was most important. I didn't know if Whitney would disappear or if it was too good to be true, but what we had just happened out of the blue of a summer, and I wasn't even expecting it. She was just as I imagined after that first kiss. I still remember the taste of her mouth. Whitney smoked Newports like they were candy, but didn't smell like cigarettes. Somehow the faint hint of tobacco was sweet on her mouth. I explored her body and mine by touching. Caressing her and loving her felt like a dream. Whatever energy we had between us all that time was expressed through our bodies that night. It was free and honest. It was tender and loving. We both wanted to touch and explore each other, and we did until we fell asleep in each other's arms. Though a burgeoning sapphic relationship was underway, Robin and Whitney never acknowledged it verbally. We never talked labels like lesbian or gay. Our affection for each other had blossomed undetected but in full view. Like other girls, we sat close to each other or held hands. Sometimes Whitney sat in my lap while we talked in the park, or sat between my legs on the ground, resting her head on my thigh. Nearby, another pair of girls might adopt a similar posture, doing hair or lying across each other telling secrets. So many girls were physical with each other that their behavior didn't raise any flags. One time that summer, Whitney and I went to a gay club, a completely new experience for both of us. Whitney and I held hands and got close on the dance floor, but once we started kissing, we left. We made it to the car, but couldn't wait long enough to get back to the hotel. I parked the rental car alongside the water, and before long, a cop knocked on the window. We were in there naked, but the windows were fogged up, so he couldn't see much, and just urged us to move on. Drugs were, unfortunately, a part of their relationship. Ours was a typical teenage relationship with, I guess, the exception of cocaine. The first person to give me a hit of cocaine was a friend of Whitney's stepbrother, Gary. And Whitney told me that she was 14 years old when she first tried cocaine. My mother pressed me about my recent behavior, and I confessed that Whitney and I smoked marijuana and did coke. After an understandably harsh reaction from her mother, Robin confronted Whitney. I said it was time for both of us to shape up and that Janet Crawford wasn't playing. Finally, Whitney took a deep, slow drag on her Newport and said, "My mother spoke to me." She did not seem the least bit concerned. In fact, she was nonchalant about it. In 1982, Whitney's dream came true of signing with the record label Arista. We became more focused on the dream and what we could accomplish. Whitney would often say, "Cocaine can't go where we're going." Now that stardom was on the horizon, Whitney chose to end her 2-year romance with Robin Crawford. Whitney came by my mother's apartment and said she had a gift for me. She placed a box in my hands, and inside there lay a slate blue Bible. She said that we shouldn't be physical anymore because it would make our journey even more difficult. She also said she wanted to have children one day, and living that kind of life meant that we would go to hell. The love I felt for Nippy was real and effortless, filled with so much feeling that when we talked about ending the physical part of our relationship, it didn't feel as if I was losing that much. After Whitney and I had that talk, the only thing that changed was the physical intimacy. We remained best friends and companions, and we continued to be there for each other every day on every level. While working on her first album, Whitney quickly realized she needed an assistant and promptly put Robin on her payroll. I wish that I could be two places at once, but I can't. I can handle the inside, I got this, but I need you on the outside looking in. Rumors about Whitney being gay and having an affair with her assistant began swirling around the industry not long after Robin took on the role. But the truth was, at that point, they were only close friends, and Robin was witness to a failed affair with a then-married Jermaine Jackson, as well as an unrequited love for Eddie Murphy. One day, when Eddie was to show up for dinner, but instead stood Whitney up, Robin caught a glimpse of her by the table set for two. I was outside and could see her through the large glass windows. For a moment, I thought, boy, I wish that she was doing that for me. But she wasn't. I knew that would never be me with her in that way. Never, ever again. And that was the last time I had a thought like that. Robin was close to Whitney throughout her entire relationship with Bobby Brown and witnessed firsthand the devastating effects that relationship had on her. I noticed that Nip started using drugs a lot more when Bobby was around. She wasn't putting on the brakes. I reminded her that drugs should be over now, and she said, I know. I admire that you were able to stop, and I will put it down, but I'm not ready to just yet. There were so many forewarnings in her and Bobby's relationship, but she chose to ignore them all. By the early 2000s, Robin's closeness to Whitney had diminished due to Bobby and Whitney's deeper spiral into cocaine. Robin was now involved with her current partner, Lisa, but her heart remained open for Whitney and Bobby Christina if Whitney ever needed any help getting clean. In regards to Lisa, Robin said, I gave her my word that I would focus on the life that we were building and the family that we wanted to have. But we also had an understanding that when Whitney called or if she showed up at the door, we would welcome her. Whitney's passing left a hole in the lives of many, not the least of Robin Crawford. I don't know what or how much Whitney told her daughter about us. I don't know if she shared what life was like when we were inseparable, before fame took everything over. I hope she told her how tight we were, that I would do anything for her mother. It haunts me that I have no way of knowing. Referring to motherhood with Lisa and their two children, Robin said, occasionally people would see us together and say, I bet you can't even remember what life was like without them. I smile, but not in agreement. Of course I remember. I've been blessed with two big lives. So, tell me, viewers, Were you touched by the revelations of Whitney's 2-year romance and lifelong friendship with Robin Crawford? Did you grow up in the 80s and 90s, idolizing that irreplaceable voice as I did? Please sound off in the comments. Thank you for watching, and good night.